Looks good. All right, hey everybody. I know you guys just saw me like, I don't know, 45 minutes ago on another panel. But here I am with my friend Eric. He's going to do a nice, really cool laid back. We're just going to chill, talk about art. He's going to do some live drawing for us. And yeah, we're just going to take it from there.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? My name is Eric Wolfgang. I'm a self-named world-renowned cartoonist, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about some tips and tricks and things that I think about when it comes to drawing, and um, just certain things that might kind of change the way how you see, how you approach a project or just an illustration. So yeah, I'm just gonna, I guess, get right into it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, let's see here. So one thing that I think is really cool about like this whole, okay, so I always call, like, I've been calling it since last year, Maplid. And then I saw people earlier today saying MAPLD, and I'm just like, no, this is not YMCA, it's Maplid. Because I'm like, oh, that's a cool name.
You know what? I'll roll with that. Maplid. Well, it's abbreviation of Manson Area Public Library District. It is like the longest ever. And I think it's Madison. I say it wrong because when you think of Madison living in Chicago, you think like Madison. And it's not spelled the same way. So I get a lot of crap for not saying it right as a Chicago girl going into the suburbs area. But yeah. But how did you say it? Maplid. Maplid. There you go.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's Maplid. Like, it's so cool. Maplid FanFest.
Gonna bring it to the Maplid area.
So yeah, one thing I always like doing with drawing a lot of characters is I like to stay really loose with it. So I'm gonna draw something. I'm gonna draw like a kid reading a book.
Cool.
And just kind of make that a little bit more interesting, because that's one thing I always find with when you're drawing like a panel in a page, like in a book, or even if you're just drawing any kind of illustration to begin with, like the one thing you always got to find is how to make boring stuff interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of comics I've seen where like it's just people, a bunch of talking heads, at a diner, and they're just not changing the camera angle or anything like that, or like really focusing on anything. So a lot of times, as you can kind of see, like I started with like an egg shape. A lot of people use like that egg shape for, I'm gonna draw the head, I gotta think of an egg. The way how I like to draw is I like to kind of keep everything, like I like to imagine the whole shape of the character as I'm drawing, because in that way I don't get too worked up, by putting all these extra lines somewhere. So it gives me something to kind of like, all right, these are my parameters that I'm going to work with, and I won't just go too over the top. So, and one other thing too that you kind of see a lot in a lot of my characters, they all look different. They all have very weird shapes, and like they're all different sizes, and that just comes from me just with that whole like cartooning kind of background into it. Is I looked a lot at like Bob Camp, who was a co-creator of Ren and Stimpy.
Nice.
And tons and tons of other kind of animators, because originally that's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to be a storyboard artist for animation, but schooling was really expensive.
But you went to the International School of Comics?
I went to the International School of Comics, and that actually really kind of changed my perspective, because I was just going to go in there because they were offering an illustration program, and where it's just like hard, like serious illustration work, because that was the other thing that I like if you're not doing animation, you're doing high-end illustration art, you know, or like highbrow art or whatever, like stuff you see like in galleries at museums, because a lot of people that I knew, that's the type of stuff that they did. And I was just like, well, all right, I guess I gotta kind of stick with what everybody else is doing. And me, I don't like doing that, because then I feel like I don't have, you know, any kind of imagination, and I always like to do things a little differently than
No,
than
yeah, your
some
characters
people.
definitely speak, you know, their own, like they have definitely their own personalities instantly. That's why I like your drawings a lot. Like you said, but it's not traditional. And you're right. Every time I would go to like their booth, the people in Chicago, International School of Comics was always at C2E2. So I know people watching just have run into their booths. But yeah, either it was very abstract or very nature oriented art, or it was superheroes. But your artwork kind of stands out alone from that, and it's fantastic. I love your character development and your stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, it's too much. My parents couldn't afford a babysitter, so I just sat in front of the TV a lot now. That my parents would never do that sometimes, but that's what I just like to tell people instead.
Yeah.
You know, because you grew up, you know, in that prime age of, you know, cartoon animation, you know, the early 90s, when like Lion King, Aladdin, like those first hit, you know, and then the Nickelodeon like takeover. That was just a huge change in the way how people looked at, you know, like the types of careers they can have in animation.
Yeah, definitely.
And like and whatnot. So I'm gonna have this kid read like some crazy book, and we're gonna have this giant thing come out, because speaking of early animation stuff, there was this movie that a lot of people don't really remember with Macaulay Culkin called Page Master.
Yes.
And I feel like that was such a cool concept to have, and you know, I thought it would just be very fitting for a library.
It was Christopher Lloyd? Was he the voice?
He was the librarian.
Yeah,
he was that crazy librarian wizard guy.
Yes.
And I was like, that is awesome. So yeah, it's definitely a must watch for a lot of people if you haven't seen it.
Underappreciated movie.
Oh, totally. And the concept is awesome. Like, this kid gets stuck in these books and like he's got to go find like some sword or something. I can't remember. It was so long since I've seen it. But you know, it was Macaulay Culkin prime.
And as you guys can see, Jack did a lot of our videos during the beginning of when everything was shutting down, and he emphasized on one thing that you've been doing. It's okay to erase and go back and refigure different parts of your character. I noticed you were doing that, but a lot of kids, when he did the video, we had people reach out saying their kids get bogged down on making mistakes and they get discouraged from drawing, you know, but you're erasing. So I had to point that out.
Yeah, it's funny. That's one thing I always tell people, is I'm constantly erasing my drawing, because I put so many lines down that I need to see what I'm drawing. I can't see a lot, especially since I have, like, I don't know if you can see in this camera, but I have something like literally right in front of my face. And so a lot of the times, like, and also my lines too, they get too blunt. I like to draw, I don't know if you can see, with a very blunt pencil versus a very sharp pencil. I don't know, can we see that? Yeah. We can see that. That way it kind of helps keep the pencil a lot smoother and kind of glide like butter on the paper, instead of like having a really sharp, crisp line. Because then that way, a lot of the times too, when in like the drawing phase, people like to commit to what it is that they're drawing already, instead of just having like a general line, like a kind of like, I use my pencils as like guidelines. Like, I'm not married to any of this right now. Like, because I'm like, when I go ink it, it's gonna just look completely different. It's still gonna be like the same concept, you know, but it's like, that's the one thing. It's just like, I just kind of want, like, all right, when I ink, I'm just gonna put a line right here and that's it. Like, as long as I have the general shape, then I know what this is gonna look like at the end. And you see a lot of artists that do life drawing, you know, like when there's like a model, like in a costume, and you know, you just draw like these weird squiggles and like it's a person. That's kind of what I tell people all the time. It's like, it just, you know, art is just a bunch of squiggles.
Yeah, and then when you like pick up a book and they show you, like you said, like the circle, and they break down like the different body parts, it always makes it seem like they draw like 3 or 4 shapes and then the finished product. And so people get bogged down on like, well, I can't scribble, because I scribble a lot like how you do when I draw, and I always thought that was the wrong way to do it because I made so many line marks. You know, and I wasn't really sure which direction I wanted to go in. I was never very clean at drawing.
Oh, I'm filthy. I'm absolutely gross when it comes to drawing. I'm never clean.
You said gross.
I'm atrocious.
That kid's expression, he's like, oh God, why did I pick up this book?
Yeah, it's gonna, you know what, we'll make it funny at the end. All right, so this is about as tight as I'll keep my pencils for anything that I'm drawing. I never really go too further than this. There are some cases where I will draw something a little bit more refined, but that's more for like, you know, if the person who I'm drawing for is very concerned about how things get. But if I'm drawing for myself, this is generally the ballpark where I like to stay at. Hopefully my camera can pick up, kind of see some of this.
No, it looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the feet. Cool. So yeah, now we can just kind of start inking. Right now I'm using a zebra, depending on who slaps me on the internet for this, is a zebra brush pen. It's kind of like, it doesn't have any bristles. It's kind of like a pit pen, so it's got like a spongy tip to it. But it really kind of keeps the same general feel of like, as if I'm using, you know, like my Kuretake brush pen, or like my Pentel brush pen, or my other Pentel brush pens. I use a lot of brushes instead of like microns and fine line stuff. That's all for detailed. This, if you're just kind of drawing and, you know, wanting to get, you know, the gestures of stuff, then this goes from like a really nice thin to like thick line, and it just makes things a lot faster and more like organic feeling too, because I don't like when I draw, I don't really want to keep stuff too stiff, because then it doesn't look like it's moving. And I guess that's kind of like the animation storytelling that I like, is when stuff feels more organic, like it has weight to it.
Yeah, and it's not as rigid.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's cool. Did you always want to be an artist?
Yes and no. I really kind of came into it, how do we say, like when I was in school, there was always like those kids, like we were always, you know, would all draw and be like, oh man, look at this, like look at how well this person can draw. And I was always one of those kids who were like, oh Eric, can you draw this? Oh Eric, can you draw that? And I was just like, yeah. And then there was like a little bit of like this kind of competition between me and like some other kids, or kids would be just like, oh man, like this person draws way better. And then other kids in the class would be like, no, I like the way how this person draws instead. And so I kind of never, like, I always thought it was cool that like, oh wow, people also really think this is awesome. But it was one of those things where, there we go. I had to make the sound effect to get that line. Sorry. It's always good to draw with sound effects, because then you really feel it. But it was one of those things where I would draw and then I wouldn't really care about it. It was just like a thing like I could do. I never really thought that like, oh man, I really want to be an artist, until my parents one day told me, it's just like, find what you like to do and then figure out how to make money off of it. And I was just like, what? I can make money off of this? And and then typical things, high school happens, and you tend to change how your interests are. And then it wasn't really until after high school I like really decided, it was just like, you know what, I'm gonna make this a thing, because I've been going to comic book conventions like my whole life, that I think
we lost your drawing camera.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Click.
Click.
My camera just falls asleep sometimes.
All right, I got you back.
It takes naps.
It takes naps. It's sleepy.
That's what I say all the time. It's just taking a nap. Let's change this. Let's use this guy. Let's use my Kuretake brush pen instead, because the other one's starting to dry out. I would say one thing for sure when it comes to anybody that's wanting to really practice drawing at any level too, like it doesn't have to be like looking for a career in it or anything like that. Like it could just be you want to practice practice an art form of some kind. I would say, a lot of people, they'll start trying to draw the human body like perfectly, and if it's not up to Michelangelo standards, then they quit and give up. I always tell people to start small and basic. Really just start drawing shapes and really figuring out how the shape can look three-dimensionally, and then start working on the anatomy and start really diving in to facial features, and then like perspective and all that other stuff. Because if you just practice drawing shapes and figure out how they work, in a 3D type of space, you're learning the rules of how, things would work, from putting something in your head on the paper.
Yeah.
And at that point, you can really just draw anything however you want. You can break the rules any which way you possibly can.
So we have a question. Who was the first character you drew?
The first character I drew?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Or maybe one that you remember, it's amazing.
So recently, I don't think I have it on me, like the actual physical thing. I was going through my computer, and I was looking at a bunch of old files because I was trying to clear stuff up for space, and I found a drawing of Charizard from Pokemon.
Oh, I saw you post that. Yeah.
I posted that the other day, and that was the earliest drawing I could find that I have. So if anything, I would say that's probably, I guess, the first character I ever drew.
Aww.
But other than that, like my dad, he would always draw, like Batman, Frankenstein, Superman, and all that stuff. So like I would always just kind of try drawing those things, and dinosaurs, because who doesn't like dinosaurs?
So your dad was an artist.
My dad, he drew a lot. He was kind of like an artist. When he was younger, before he had me and my sister, and I stumbled upon some of his drawings like way back in like an old Tupperware. They were like the paper's all yellow and whatnot. But when I was a kid, he would always just kind of just draw things, just like doodling around to kind of stay warm. And so I just kind of picked it up from him.
That's cool. It's like a little family thing.
Yeah.
My dad was into music, and that's how I got kind of thrown into music too when I was a kid.
Nice.
Yeah, so he used to play drums, and yeah, it kind of just rubbed off. So I played a couple different instruments too. So it's, I guess it's kind of like in our DNA.
Yeah, right? It happens. So that's why I want to be really good at video games. So then my kid one day is like amazing and being like all those people that are making crazy amounts of money just playing video games online. I'm like, how are you doing this?
Just speed running through like a whole
I was
game
just
that we sat through like when we were kids and took us like a whole summer to beat.
honestly, yeah, I started replaying some old games that I had, and I'm just like, man, how? And like, I remember just like breezing through all of these games, like Crash Bandicoot, like the first Crash Bandicoot, and I'm playing it now, and I'm like having the hardest time. And I'm like, how in the world? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Video games back in the day used to be a lot harder because there was no DLC.
Nope.
Like you didn't have to buy. They had to try making you play the game as long as you possibly can until the next one came out.
That's like Battletoads.
Yeah, like Battletoads, Contra. What was it? Balloon Fight was another one.
Balloon Fight. Oh my god. We were talking about, me and Jack were talking about the Lion King game. So I bought it for the Switch, right? So tell me why I pop it in, and he doesn't believe me that I beat the game without the cheats. I'm like, no, I beat the game without the cheats. I couldn't even get past the second level. And I don't know, maybe as we get older, like maybe our thumbs are not as agile as like, as children's thumbs. I don't know.
Right?
There's gotta be some logic.
We're texting all the time, man. Like, how is our thumbs? They should be like, they've been training their whole lives for this.
We're failing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny though, because yeah, I played it and I was just like, oh god, I'm really horrible at this game now. How was I like the king of the Lion King back in the day?
King of the Lion King.
Oh, that's another good question. Do you listen to music or put on the TV while you draw?
Oh man, it's a very easy question. I listen to music very loudly than I probably should because I'm one of those people that I'm a huge film nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I was going to go to school for. And I'm one of those people where like, if I'm watching something, I don't care what it is, I'm watching it. You know, like I can only focus on one thing. And that's it. And a lot of the times music really helps because it kind of helps me, like if I'm drawing something, you know, like a quiet scene,
mm-hmm.
I'm listening to something that's like really mellow and like helping me relax, or like the music kind of helps feel the energy, I guess, into like what I'm drawing. It's so cliche to say, but it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, music definitely helps kind of speed the process of drawing and slow it down at the same time.
Start jamming out. You're like, wait, I gotta work.
Yeah.
Do you have any band or type of music that you listen to?
So I actually listen to a lot of things. Like a lot of things. I jump from Western music, like cowboy Western music from like back in like the 50s to like Daft Punk to, you know, DJ Cool and what's his face, Biz Markie to like Run the Jewels.
Nice.
Then, you know, like AFI and Slipknot and Slayer and like then NoFX, and then I start listening to Enya and Cher and ABBA and like all sorts of stuff. And so my music range is all over the place all the time.
I'm just gonna stop it on you said Enya, and I'm just like, wait, I haven't heard that in the longest.
Oh, love Enya. Amazing, amazing.
That's a groove. That's a whole mood in itself right there.
And it's funny, I will headbang to Enya or Bach, like nice. You know, all types of stuff. Like if you're feeling it, you're feeling it. It's kind of what I say.
Yeah, it's weird because like yeah, like I was telling you, I like music, I think, but when I craft or create or do anything like that, I have to watch movies, and I had to watch movies that I've seen 100 million times, so that I don't have to. Yeah, I don't watch it, but I look up for the key points that, you know, entertain or amuse me. but I'll go to like, my thing is like horror movies, so it'd be like the
Mm-hmm.
old It, or like Clue, or a Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. Nightmare Before
Clue is
Christmas.
considered a horror movie?
No, but like, like that would probably be the only. I went from thinking about Pennywise the Clown to Tim Curry, thinking about the other Tim Curry's movies that I would watch.
Yeah.
Like a Legend or Rocky Horror Picture Show or something like that. I guess that's more of a musical, but I could ignore half the movie. Or Ed Wood. That's another movie that I usually put on if I'm going to create something. I'll put on Ed Wood because it's just amazing, that movie. I love the way it was shot, and everything about it is just phenomenal. Got any more questions? What we got going on here? Refresh. It's looking good. You're drawing on there.
Thanks. I'm going a little too fast for this. One thing definitely gets a little nerve-wracking sometimes is drawing in front of a camera. Like, I can draw in front of people at a show all day. Like, I'm just like, people will tell me like, oh, can you draw like Godzilla? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna draw you the coolest Godzilla ever right now. And it's definitely one of those things. It's like you get on the camera, it's just like, oh, this is crazy. So like this whole new world, bringing it back to Aladdin is definitely something getting used to. And it's kind of cool because now I can just save my drawings and show people them later.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can't draw in front of people. That's like, nope. It makes me too anxious.
That's when I talk about like, not being, I tell a lot of people who are very nervous getting into comic conventions, who want to start tabling, I always tell them just like, don't be married to like what you're drawing. Like, they're there because they like what you have been doing. And if you draw something for somebody at a show, not only are they there to get an original piece from you, they're also there because they want to just hang out and talk to you and like, oh my goodness, like I love your stuff, like it's been so, like I've been following you forever, and like I just like I can't believe like we're here, like this is insane. And I'm just like, yeah, it is insane. That's what I've told lots of people sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, isn't this crazy? Like we're at a thing.
So I have. Why do you do? So my husband chimes in and says that if it's a horror movie, if you're Mr. Body. I guess I got a point there. That was good.
100%.
He also asked, why did you choose using crayons as your medium?
They're cheap and easy.
That was such a quick answer. Cheap.
They're super cheap. And a lot of the times I started using crayons because I was having trouble understanding color theory. And so when, I don't want to invest a lot of money in paints and figure that out, because everybody's just like, oh, use paints. Paints are the way to go. I'm like, I don't want to sit there and watch it dry, So I'm like, another really great artist that I've, talked to for years at shows, Art Beltazar and Franco at All Yeah Comics.
Oh, they're
those
great
guys.
People. Yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, they're a good man. They always good say. Peeps. And they just draw with what they got right there. It's crayons, and that's what I had. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to start doing this and figuring this out. And two of my teachers, Jill Thompson and Doug Klaba, phenomenal artists. Like they're like, I consider them like master artists. They would always paint, and I'd always, in class, I'd always have trouble like figuring out mixing colors and whatnot. So, when it comes to drawing with crayons to fill stuff in, I'm just like, oh, this is, bringing it back to the basics, and you can never get enough of that.
That's cool. I love Jill Thompson's work too. She did a Scary Godmother, right?
Yep, she's the creator of Scary Godmother. She was, Beasts and Burden, I think, is the name of her other book that she's done. Magic Trixie. What else, man? She's got Sandman. She's this huge,
super talented.
Huge catalog behind her. We'll put some words on there. Scribble.
That's kind of awesome, but the way you broke it down about using crayons for color theory, a lot of kids have problems with that too, mixing colors, figuring out what makes what, how much to use, and that's definitely really cool.
Copics are really expensive.
Yeah, super expensive.
And crayons are just, they're not really forgiving, but they're forgiving in the sense you can make a mistake and it won't hurt your wallet. So that's probably the greatest thing to happen. So Crayola, send the check.
Right? Sponsor.
That's what I'm always. It's one of those things.
Yeah, but I just don't see a lot of people using it. But you use it, but you make depth in the crayons that when you color with them. I'm just I just didn't think of crayons on that caliber, and and then I watch you, and I'm like, oh yeah, H.P. Lovecraft. That's nice.
What do we say here? We're gonna say on the back of the book. I'm terrible at spelling, so we'll just put a big old caution sign. I can draw, but I can't spell.
Oh no, he brought out Cthulhu. No.
Yeah.
It's already 2020. We don't need him. Who said Cthulhu for September? This kid.
Right. This kid. He had to read the book.
God, come on now.
That's the other thing too. You just kind of just start erasing, and I don't really. A lot of people, they back to the whole crayon thing, or crayon, depending on who you're talking to. One thing that I do a lot is I don't really invest in really fancy art supplies.
Mm-hmm.
People, they're just I need Bristol with the blue lines on the blue guidelines on there. I'm like, no, you don't. You just need to know that, you need a gutter for when you're drawing, and you just draw that yourself. Or they're like, I need Bristol paper in this specific size to draw on. I can't draw on copy paper. And I was like, well, I'm drawing on cheap, $5 paper that I get at Michael's, or, just printer paper, cardstock stuff. A lot of the times from, Walmart. People just get amazed. They're just like, what? You can do this with that? With just cheap stuff? And I'm just like, yes. Art supplies is very expensive. So that's why I always tell people, hey man, it's always good to, practice learning with what you got.
Have you ever gotten backlash for kind of basically saying, you don't need those red pencils, blue pencils, all those fancy bristles?
Have I gotten backlash from it? Sometimes I get some people who have spent the money on loads of supplies, and then I tell them that, and I just kind of see them just break down in their head just a little bit. I'm just like, oh no, what have I done? I have to justify what I spent. So, because I see people, at shows or at, drinking draws and stuff like that. They'll pull out their whole
arsenal. Yeah.
They have the binders, every single pencil you could think of. They're all mechanical. They have wood pencils, every single inking thing, and all the Copics. Copics are cool.
All of them.
But it's it's one of those things where I'm just you don't need all that stuff to just make, artwork with it. Like you can just get away with, just learning the simple basics. Let's see, we'll kind of add a little bit to this.
Jack said, but my favorite artist uses a certain brand and I need it so I could draw gooder.
You know what? That is very true. That's one thing I always tell people too, is just like, when it comes to stuff like that, that's 100% okay. I tell people, be mindful, you're not going to draw like them. Like every single guy, when they start really working out, the one person that they have in their head is, I want to be Brad Pitt, Fight Club. It's like, you're not going to be Brad Pitt from Fight Club. You can get the body, but like neck up, you're not going to be Brad Pitt.
Ouch.
And
ouch, burn. Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, it helps expose you to like these certain types of techniques and different tools, and that's great for you to level up in your artwork. But it's not 100% necessary to have. Shaking the camera a lot. All right, how about this? We'll pull out big old
boom. Look at that.
Hopefully, and we'll throw a little bit of color on this guy, just a little bit. We'll make this super quick, actually. I like it when my art just kind of isn't all that.
I can hear somebody, like a kid that's probably gonna watch, like a perfectionist, like, what are you doing?
I always tell people, it's gonna look cool at the end.
Just breathe.
There's always, I do like, there is this other artist that my girlfriend actually showed me. His name is Slew, and he said the greatest thing when it comes to like oil painters, that there is a part in like a point in your artwork when it's gonna suck. Like it's not like, it's the ugly phase, like you just have to keep kind of working through it, and then eventually it'll all come together at the end. And so I always tell people, it's like, yeah, my art's always in an ugly phase until I say it's done, and then once it's done, it's actually really cool. And that kind of helps me kind of bring my artwork its own voice. And so my biggest goal is, I don't like, a lot of people, like young comic book artists, they want to be like the next Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane and stuff like that. And I mean, that's great to, study other artwork, other artists' artwork, and, figure out how they kind of solve problems, so you can figure out your own way to solve these problems. When you're drawing your own artwork. But eventually you're gonna find your own kind of look, style, and that's just through like repetitive errors and like, kind of through the stuff that you like to see. So when I tell kids, it's like, just keep going at it and you'll eventually find it. And then months later or years later, they're just like, oh man, like, this is cool. Like I finally figured out how I'm gonna draw. And it's just like, there you go. Like you did it. You did it, kid. Let's see.
That's cool.
Yeah, hopefully, move this over so you can kind of see. And one other thing too, when I'm drawing, is I'm constantly moving my paper around. So I'm not trying to like maneuver my hand all around and try to get something. You can just move the paper, And a lot of animators too, you'll see they'll have their big old desk and it has a big rotating circle in the middle with like a peg, and you just stick the paper on the peg, and then you can just like rotate it around so you can get the line that you want. And usually when it comes with working with crayons too, it's actually kind of a lot like working with paint. Is you want to put the lighter color down first, and then you go in with your darker colors afterwards, because there's no real like lighting it up. Or it's more like watercolor paint than it's like acrylics or oil paints. Let's see. I like to keep the colors that I use out all the time, so I know that I use that color.
I like how you have your little quirks when you're drawing. That's cool. Everybody has them. They have little things that they do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is 96 crayons. I don't want to be sitting here and just like, did I use this one already?
See, me, because OCD, I would be like, is this robin egg blue? Did I? Okay, mental note. You know? But see, just putting that color down right there just gives it a whole different texture.
Yeah, and that's also the other fun thing with crayons is because they're so waxy that you can just kind of be light with it and not have the color super filled in all the way. And it actually looks like it's a real, organic, living thing that you see. Like you can touch it and be like, this makes sense. This is real. What does indigo look like? I don't know what color indigo is. Oh, that's like purple. We don't want indigo. We want a blue, like the kind of blue. What is this? Turquoise blue. Let's see what turquoise blue. Yeah, let's use a little turquoise blue. Oh, this isn't gonna show. Is this gonna show a little bit? Oh, bring it down here so you guys can kind of see. Man. But that, yeah, this is definitely one of the things that I do miss is, drawing for people.
Yeah.
I think I was in another kind of talk earlier this year.
Your camera went to sleep.
Oh no.
Bloop.
Super tired.
Bloop.
Is it back? Is it back? Yeah, there we go. We're back. It's that was always one of my biggest giveaways, is because I would always whenever I was at a show, kids, like if a kid wants something drawn, like I'll draw it for them for free. Like it's no problem at all, because like I'll just give them something real quick. And they're like, man, that's awesome. So it's kind of one of those fun things. It's like, because when I was a kid and I was going to shows, I would always tell people, I'd always ask them, it's like, can you draw this? And a lot of the artists were just like, yeah, here you go, kid. Because like that's what it is like when you're at a convention, like it's for the kids,
yeah,
that's what the bottom line is. And I'd probably get in a little bit of trouble if this goes out anywhere, because I remember I was working at the Marvel booth a couple times, and some collectors and whatnot, they were kind of giving some people a hard time because they wanted like this certain freebie thing that they weren't getting because they were all gone. I had to kind of tell those guys, it's like, hey, like bottom line, these shows are for the kids, man. Like this isn't for like reselling purposes. This is just for the kids.
So, I'll probably get in trouble for this too, but collectors sometimes are just the worst.
Yeah.
Just the worst, We were at C2E2 this past year, and we were at the wrestling booth, AW booth, and a lot of kids came out just to meet the wrestlers, and then you have these collectors that are like, oh, I'm here, I'm a big fan of wrestling, and then when they get up there, they have like 72 things for this person to sign, when you were only allowed one thing, and then they'll start complaining that they paid and you're holding up a line. And I'm like, a kid could have met this person by now.
Yeah.
You know, you could have,
Like,
the
come on,
kid
man.
could have been like, you could have made his day, but here you are giving not only the worker, you know, lip, but you're making the wrestlers mad. You know, one guy walked away, you know, and it was just like, it's horrible. Like, yeah, conventions are for kids or like kids at heart. Like you're there to have a good time, not to like get anybody upset, make a big
Yeah.
stink about things, you know, just have a good time, man. Gel with people, be good.
Yo, I never heard that term. I'm gonna start using that term now. Just like Dr. Scholl.
The gelling.
I usually tell people it's like, yeah, it's totally Skeletor for things that are cool.
Skeletor.
I stole that from my cousin.
That's a level of coolness is Skeletor.
Yeah, it's totally Skeletor, man.
I have this. Yeah, I just have a GIF in my head now of just Skeletor and like
Just him
wow.
laughing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Let's see, where's an orange? We'll go with the cool orange here. Tan. I don't want tan. I want orange. Orange.
So the question is, can your style evolve in time, or do you kind of stick?
Your style always is evolving and changing, and if it's not, then you are staying stagnant, and something is not right with that. You know, it's when it comes to art, you really want to. It is a skill, but it's not just a skill. It's a way of thinking. That's why one of the books that I read was Drawing on the Right Side of the Mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an art instructional book, but it's not so much showing you how to draw things. It's showing you how to think and look at things, because art is all about, you know, how your mind works and how you perceive things, and you translate things from your mind to paper. You know, you're working your brain muscle to tell your hand to like really bring something out of nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a way to think of things and like observe. That's why with me, I'm very socially awkward, because I'm constantly observing people. And that's why another reason why a lot of my characters all have really weird, crazy, wonky shapes and features to them, is because I love seeing people that are all different shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. and very crazy characteristics on them. So I'm like, man, that would be amazing to draw. Like, I want to draw that person. Because I see a lot of people, they start drawing like celebrities and whatnot. That's all cool and all, but I look at that and I'm just like, but they're not real.
Like, they are, but they're not.
They're not real. I want to draw real people, someone that I can see really walking down the street. And that's, you know, that's one of the things, you know. So if you're open to learning new techniques from other artists, you know, or like friends, or you trying to figure something out, your artwork will evolve. If it's not evolving, start breaking out of your comfort zone, and, you know, just go out into the world and you'll find something.
Somebody said you mentioned that you wanted to do a book earlier. Have you started planning on one or working on one?
I have, kinda. So I'm a terrible writer. So a lot of my, when I was in school, a lot of my artwork, like when I had to do comics, I never wrote a script. Mm-hmm. And I would just draw out the entire book. Like, I'd do all the thumbnails, and then they would just be like, I would just have a finished book right then and there. But then when it came to like actually lettering my book, I had no idea what I was doing. So that's why a lot of the times my books are silent. Mm-hmm. Whoops, move that a little bit. There we go. it also kind of doesn't help too, because growing up, I have a reading comprehension disability or thing, so I don't read well, right? So when it came to learning how to read, is really how I kind of fell in love with comics, is because I would just look at the pictures and I would be able to figure out a story from there, and I'd kind of make up my own stories. And so it kind of helped me really broaden my imagination. And just kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah. So that's why, for me, when it comes to working on books, I always need to find somebody who like can take my drawings and then like put their own words onto there and be like, boom, figured it out. So
that's cool though, because when I was talking in Brian's panel, we were just talking about indie comics and publishing and stuff like that. He mentioned how he started learning how to read because he read comics, so his vocabulary was better. And my cousin, who actually started reading comics, that was the only time he would actually finish reading a book or anything, because he had like his attention span, he couldn't do it. He couldn't sit there that long, but he could finish a comic. So it's just funny how everybody has comics for a certain, I don't know, like
to a certain degree.
Yeah, it just helps you in a certain field of your life. That's cool. Look at the pop of color. Yeah.
And then I always like to use kind of like a purple for like my shadows. I don't know why, but I feel like it really makes it more believable instead of just using black. My teachers also told me, it's just like, never use black. If you want to darken something, use like a different color, because if you just use the color black, it's really unforgiving and it doesn't look natural. And you just kind of want things, because like when you look at your shadow, it's not a perfectly black shadow. It's kind of like all these different colors. So that's why I like using things that kind of help make it feel more organic. My whole thing when it comes to drawing, even though I'm drawing very cartoony, I want you to believe that like this can be real. Like this can live in its own world.
I love that. Look at the movement. It's so good. It's so good.
Thank you. Let's see. Put some shadow there, some shadow there, a little bit of shadow here. And then we'll just go all the way around.
Yeah, I would have never thought that crayons could do all that. Just saying.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, just out of desperation and sheer kind of boredom, it's what I had, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to figure it out. Because it's really forgiving. Because it's like, what, a box of crayons is like $2?
Yeah.
$1?
50 cents right now. What?
Yeah, school supplies season. That's when I stock up on my crayons and paper and all
it's your
types
best
of stuff.
friend. You're like, yay, school season.
Honestly, yes. I get all my pencils, everything. And then we'll give them a little bit of a shadow at the bottom.
Look at that. Perfectly done in an hour. Check that out.
Look at that.
Look at that. It's done.
It is actually, it's not done until you sign
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I messed that up.
There we go. We'll sign it right here on this side.
So is it still nasty still? Is it still until it's done?
Yes. There we go.
Someone named Alice said hi.
That's my mom.
She said hi. Oh, yep. She said that's my boy.
Yep.
Hi, Eric's mom.
Alice Martinez. That's what I call her when she's not listening to me. As she says my full name when I'm not listening.
Yep.
So let's see. There we go.
That's amazing.
Well, this is just.
Here, let me get the one screen. Go ahead one more time from the top. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
This way.
Yeah. That is awesome.
You always gotta sign it.
Yep. Sign and date it. That's when you know it's done. Look at that. That's so
That's
cool.
when you know it's done.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. And it's always kind of cool sitting in the hot seat, drawing a drawing.
Right? Since we all kind of been bunkered down, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for doing this. You can check out all of Eric's great work. We have, I did put a link to your Facebook page in the description, but it's on our Artist Alley and our Vendor Alley, so check out his stuff. Amazing work. Feel free to share this on your page if you want to. It'll be uploaded in a few seconds once it kind of loads itself up. But thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for having me.
All right, have a good evening. We'll see you guys in a little bit. I will be doing the cosplay contest results in about 10 minutes. So be there. All right, bye.
Bye.